4 creepy night encounters that actually happened. The night. It has a way of making the familiar feel foreign, doesn't it? A shadow in the corner of your eye, a sound from another room. Innocent enough, perhaps. But what happens, I wonder, when that shadow steps into the light? When the sounds coalesce into something more sinister? Tonight, 5 ordinary people will share their extraordinary tales, recounting what happened when the comforting blanket of darkness suddenly transformed into an undeniable threat. These aren't just stories. They're echoes of moments when the world shifted, when the veil thinned, and something truly unsettling made its presence known. Listen closely, and perhaps you'll understand why some nights you just can't shake that feeling. Story 1. The Hammer Guys. I'm calling this first one The Hammer Guys, and you'll soon understand why that name, simple as it is, carries such a chilling weight. Picture this: a quiet Wednesday night, just past midnight. Kyle, a 27-year-old electrician, was home alone in his small, unassuming brick ranch house just outside Raleigh, North Carolina. He had the next day off, a rare luxury, and was doing what many young men do, lost in the digital world of gaming. The volume kept low, a concession to the late hour. The spring air, perfectly mild, drifted through his open windows, a gentle caress that promised peace. But peace, as we often learn, can be fleeting. He heard it first, a subtle sound from the back door, a jiggle, then another, this time harder, more deliberate. It was the kind of sound that makes the hairs on your neck stand up, a primal alarm bell ringing in the quiet. By the time Kyle hit the pause button on his game, freezing the digital world he'd been immersed in, 3 masked men were already inside. They were like specters, materializing from the night, their movements silent, efficient. Gloves on, balaclavas pulled down, revealing only their eyes, cold, unblinking. The first of them, a man whose presence seemed to fill the room, raised a framing hammer. He held it not like a tool, but like an extension of his own arm, a weapon with a purpose. "Cash, weed, or we put you to sleep," he said. Kyle's own words, recounted later to the 911 operator, paint a vivid, disturbing picture. They said it so casual, like they were asking for salt. Think about that for a moment, the chilling nonchalance of it. They wasted no time. Kyle's wrists were zip-tied, his ankles bound with duct tape. He was then dragged, unceremoniously, into the hallway. Why the hallway? So he could watch as they systematically tore his life apart, room by room. Every minute or so, the man with the hammer would tap its head against the baseboard, a rhythmic, maddening sound. Tap, tap, tap. It was a perverse metronome for their destructive symphony. The second intruder, meanwhile, used a hefty pipe wrench to pry open drawers, splintering wood, tossing contents aside. In that agonizing stretch of time, Kyle's mind raced, desperate for meaning, for a pattern, for anything to latch onto. He realized the tapping wasn't just random, it was a countdown, a slow, relentless march toward an unknown, terrifying end. When it stopped, what then? He focused with an almost manic intensity on the only detail he could control, the only point of light in his encroaching darkness, the faint square of his porch light bleeding through the crack beneath the front door. He made a silent pact with himself. If that square of light blinked, if one of them stepped in front of it, obscuring it for even a fraction of a second, he would act. He'd roll, kick, scream, do anything. And then the tapping stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. And then the light blinked. In that instant, fueled by adrenaline and a primal will to survive, Kyle snapped his tied wrists upward, aiming for the hammer guy's face. He felt cartilage give way beneath his desperate strike, a sickening crunch, and then, mercifully, everything went black. He woke to the wail of sirens. Neighbors, stirred by the commotion, had called 911. The intruders, perhaps startled by the noise, perhaps simply having lost interest in their macabre game, had vanished into the night. They left the hammer behind, a silent testament to the terror lying innocently on the carpet. Kyle, though alive, bore the scars: 10 stitches across his cheek, a plate in his sinus, and 6 months of waking nightmares. The police never found them. That hammer, an object of such mundane purpose twisted into a symbol of sheer terror, remains in an evidence locker, tagged simply, Property, Misk. A chilling reminder of a night when darkness revealed its true, brutal face. Story 2. The Thing on the Stairs. Our next encounter comes from Marisol, a facilities tech who worked the swing shift at a community college in southern Arizona. Hers is a tale that blurs the lines between the known and the utterly inexplicable. It was 11:07 p.m. when she locked up the tech building. She remembered the exact time because she'd playfully joked to the security camera, a silent confidant, that she'd be out by 11:05. The campus was deserted, bathed in the eerie glow of sodium lamps, their constant hum the only sound competing with the distinct earthy smell of creosote carried on the desert wind. A typical night, really. As she approached the exterior stairwell, a small detail snagged her attention. The motion detector light above the door was already on. Her first thought, a practical one, was common wildlife. A coyote, perhaps, or a javelina. The desert teemed with life after all. But then she saw it. Standing on the 4th step, perfectly still, was a silhouette. It had no discernible face, no clothes, no features at all, just a matte black, human-shaped void, impossibly tall. Marisol's brain, accustomed to the logical, immediately tried to rationalize it. A cardboard cutout, she thought. A prank by some mischievous students. "Very funny, guys," she called out, her voice echoing in the quiet night, tinged with a hint of irritation. She took one step closer, ready to debunk the illusion, and that's when the impossible happened. The shape tilted its head, not like a human, not with a fluid motion, but impossibly quick. A single frame of film skipped, a jarring, unnatural jerk, and then it moved. It sprinted up the stairs, but not in steps, not with the familiar rhythm of human locomotion. It floated, glided, covering what must have been 15 feet in a mere blink. Marisol heard nothing. No footfalls, no rustle of clothing, no breath. The only sound was the frantic drumbeat of her own heart, pounding against her eardrums, a visceral symphony of terror. She backed away, stumbling, so fast that her water bottle slipped from her grasp, rolling with a clatter that seemed deafening in the sudden silence. When security finally arrived, the stairwell was empty. The light was off, the motion sensor cold, as if nothing had ever been there. They pulled the surveillance footage. The camera clearly showed Marisol talking to it at 11:09 p.m. Then, for exactly 3 seconds, the feed pixelated, a digital scramble. When it cleared, Marisol was running, a blur of pure panic. The college IT guys, after thorough investigation, swore no glitch had occurred. The system was robust, the footage untampered. Marisol quit the next week. The experience had etched itself onto her soul. To this day, she won't walk past that building, not even in broad daylight. Some things, it seems, defy explanation, leaving only a lingering shadow in their wake. Story 3. The Woman on the Balcony. Our third story takes us to the bustling heart of downtown Denver, to a high-rise studio apartment, a beacon of modern living. Here, we meet Jordan, 24, a barista by day, a streamer of games by night. His life, like many his age, was a predictable rhythm of coffee, screens, and the quiet hum of city life. One Thursday, the digital world had kept him captive a little longer than usual. He wrapped up his stream at 2:15 a.m., tired but content. He brushed his teeth, the mundane ritual a soothing end to his day, and then went to pee. But as he stepped into his bathroom doorway, his world tilted on its axis. Standing there, in his own apartment, was a woman he had never seen before. She stared blankly, her eyes devoid of expression, fixed on something Jordan couldn't comprehend. Long, dark hair framed a pale face, and she wore a white pajama dress. But it was her feet that truly unsettled him. Dirty, grimy, as if she'd walked barefoot through construction sites. Jordan yelled, a guttural sound of shock and fear. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. He bolted past her, propelled by pure terror, slamming the bathroom door shut behind him. His heart jackhammering against his ribs, he fumbled for his phone, then remembered his echo in the living room. "Alexa, call 911, he barked, his voice raw.
7 agonizing minutes later, the police arrived. They swept the apartment, thorough and professional, empty. Not a trace. They checked the key fob logs, a digital record of entry and exit. Only Jordan's fob had been used all day. He tried to rationalize it, to force it into a box his mind could understand. Sleep-deprived hallucination, he concluded. Too much caffeine, too many late nights. He forced himself into bed, trying to dismiss the chilling encounter as a trick of the mind. At 3:02 a.m., the sound came again. A soft tap, tap, tap against his sliding balcony glass. He rolled over, his blood running cold, and there she was, the same woman, now outside, on his 7th-story balcony. Her palms were pressed against the glass, her eyes wide, glistening, as if she'd been crying for a very long time. Jordan kept a folding knife on his nightstand, a small comfort in the vastness of the city night. He grabbed it, his hand trembling, and inched toward the sliding door.
The woman mouthed something he couldn't hear, her lips moving in a silent, desperate plea. Then she tried the handle. It was locked. For a fleeting moment, she smiled. Jordan swears it was tender, almost grateful. And then she simply stepped backward, off the ledge. He waited. He braced himself for the scream, for the sickening thud that would follow. Nothing, only the quiet hum of the city, the distant sirens, and the frantic pounding of his own heart. The police returned, their faces now etched with a deeper concern. They searched the courtyard below, meticulously. Nobody. No footprints on the mulch. Nothing. It was as if she had simply dissolved into the night air. The property manager, informed of the bizarre events, shared a chilling detail. The previous tenant's daughter had fallen from that very balcony in 2014 during a manic episode. She had survived but had never returned to the apartment. The pieces clicked into place, forming a mosaic of sorrow and lingering presence. Jordan moved out within the month. He still streams, but every night, without fail, he ends at 11 sharp. And those sliding doors? They're now permanently shrouded by heavy blackout curtains, a desperate attempt to keep the unseen, the unexplained, from peering back in. Story 4. The Glowing Boots. Our fourth tale delves into the world of the paranormal, told by a seasoned investigator, a man whose name remains withheld in the official report, a detail that only adds to the mystique. He was 38, and he'd rented a 1920s farmhouse in rural Kansas, a place notorious among the locals for a particularly unsettling phenomenon: doors that open themselves. He was there alone, as is often the case in such investigations, recording baseline EMF readings, the subtle electromagnetic fluctuations that paranormal enthusiasts believe signal unseen presence. The house was quiet, the night deep. Around 1:40 a.m., a soft light caught his eye. It was under the study door, an amber glow, warm and inviting, like a lantern. And between that light and the carpet, a crisp, undeniable silhouette. 2 boots facing him, square toe, distinct heel, definitely vintage workwear. He froze. Every instinct screamed at him. The boots didn't move, but the light pulsed once, a soft, deliberate breath. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice a little strained, the mic still recording, capturing every nuance of the tense moment. Playback later revealed a chilling detail: a 3 degrees Celsius temperature drop, and a faint whisper, overlapping his own voice, chillingly clear. Waiting. He didn't hesitate. He dialed 911, his eyes fixed on the gap under the door, the camera still rolling. While on the line with dispatch, the boots moved, one scuff then another, drawing closer. Yet the door remained closed, stubbornly, impossibly sealed. He backed away, slowly, deliberately, into the hallway, his gaze never leaving the door, the front door now tantalizingly in sight. The dispatcher, a calm voice in the storm, stayed with him for 5 long minutes until troopers arrived. They cleared the house. Every window was locked, every door latched. No footprints, no lantern, nothing missing. The house was, by all accounts, empty, but the audio recording told a different story. It had captured the boot steps, 12 distinct scuffs, ending right at the threshold of the study door. The investigator played the recording for the officers. One of them, an older, grizzled man, turned visibly pale. He admitted, his voice hushed, that his great-grandfather, a railroad worker, had died in that very room of a stroke in 1952, wearing just such boots. The investigator, a man of science and logic, stayed for the remainder of his lease. But he never slept in the study again, and when he finally moved on, he left a cryptic note for the next tenant, a simple warning born of a night he could never fully explain. Keep the door closed, he hates it open. Some presences, it seems, linger long after the living have departed. In conclusion, 4 nights, 4 ordinary people who looked the extraordinary darkness straight in the eye and came out forever changed. Their stories serve as stark reminders that the world, even in its most mundane corners, holds secrets, terrors, and inexplicable phenomena that can redefine our understanding of reality. If you've got a story that keeps you awake, a memory that sends a shiver down your spine, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if these true encounters resonate with you, if they've stirred something deep within, then like and subscribe. You might just find more tales that make you question the shadows. And hey, tonight, maybe just keep a light on. Sleep tight.